Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the November Naviant Solution Spotlight on the topic of OnBase full text search versus the Autonomy IDOL full text search engine. My name is Guy Schrader. I am the Manager of Sales Engineering here with Naviant, and I will be your presenter today. So as always, just a few housekeeping items to note on the GoToWebinar that we have here to be able to record this properly. And yes, the webinar is being recorded. You are all muted. So if you do need to communicate with me, please use the questions and or the chat box that appears within your GoToWebinar panel that appears on your screen. And also, just as a reminder, we do post a survey when you exit your GoToWebinar. Please take a moment and complete that. If you have any topic ideas of what you would like us to present going forward in 2020, we're always here to listen. We want to make sure that we're presenting topics that are pertinent to what you actually want to hear. So please take a moment to complete that. So our agenda today, based upon our title, we're going to be talking about OnBase full text search as it compares to the Autonomy IDOL search engine. So for some of you, this may be brand new. For others, you may very well have been using Autonomy IDOL and want to know the differences. We're just going to set the stage quickly early on, talking about what is full text search. Some of the reasons why you may want to transition from the Autonomy IDOL search engine to the new OnBase full text search, and go through some steps of how you would actually migrate from the one tool to the other. And we'll leave some time at the end for some recap and questions. So really, before we get started, just to get you clicking a little bit, and hopefully you're not too comfortable at this point in time, I'm going to be launching a poll here in just a moment. Really, I want to gauge the audience to understand, do you have full text search licensed in your organization today? So let me pop that up, take a few moments just to go ahead and answer that question. You can see some of the responses there: yes, no, not sure. Or if you're still looking at OnBase and you're not don't have OnBase licensed yet, please answer that accordingly. And it looks like our responses are slowing down a little bit here. So just to give everybody a little bit of an idea of what I'm seeing here, 24% of you are saying yes, you do have full text search currently licensed. 43% are saying no, and 33% of you are not quite sure. And I don't blame you. Sometimes we don't fully understand everything that is licensed within our system. And I hope everybody's still able to hear me properly. I'm getting a warning through GoToWebinar saying that the audio is degraded. So hopefully you are able to hear me perfectly fine, and we'll just continue as such. So to set the stage, what is full text search? Again, a number of you don't currently have full text search or don't know whether you have it. So let's set the stage. Today in OnBase, without full text search, I think you all understand how you can retrieve documents. Really, you have your different document types, you have your keywords, and you can find those documents using that combination of both through native document retrieval, through your custom queries that may be configured, through folders if you have that configured, or if you're using a newer version of OnBase with the Unity client, you have the combined viewer. And there's many more methods. You know, we have application enabler in a variety of different ways. But really, the fact of the matter is, without full text search, you have to rely upon how that document was indexed, oftentimes by somebody else. And then again, that's based upon the keywords that are associated specifically with the document type. But think how much more content is stuck in the documents behind the scenes beyond those keywords. So with full text search, you can still utilize your document types and your keywords to limit your search. You don't have to search across everything in your OnBase system. Plus, you have the capability of now searching based upon every single word that appears inside of that document. Hence, full text search. Full text inside the document, you're searching across all of that to very quickly find your documents. I like to use this next graphic just to kind of paint a point here of why you might want to do this. Say, for example, you work in recruitment within your human resources department, and you've posted a developer position as well as all of the other positions that you have, and you're storing those resumes inside the system. Well, surely you could go into the system and say, if you have a keyword for position applied, search for everybody that's applied for the developer position for whatever date range recent that you're looking for. And that might return back hundreds, sometimes thousands of documents that now you would actually have to open up each and every one of them to find which of those candidates you want to be bringing forward. And obviously that takes time. Doing something like that's going to be a matter of hours to be able to find the candidates that you're looking for. When you have full text search, what that really allows us to do now is still use that baseline search across your resumes for your developer position for whatever time frame, but you can also get in there and say, you know what, I'm really looking for somebody that has specified that they've done some development on mobile applications or mobile apps. That would be a text search inside those documents. And now I have a much more manageable list of documents for me to review to find my candidates. Or maybe I'm specifically looking for somebody that's done some work on Apple applications, some mobile apps near the word Apple. And now I have a much smaller subset. And anybody that has specific experience with iOS. If all of those things appear on their resume, now I've identified a single good, fabulous candidate, frankly, based upon all of those, that I've taken that search from what could be multiple hours to just a matter of minutes to be able to find the content that I'm looking for. So a really great example of how powerful full text search can be for your organization. Hopefully everybody has seen this. I missed the training course on how to use Google search. Obviously there wasn't a training course for it because it's pretty darn simple. You type in whatever you're looking for and Google does all the rest behind the scenes because they've been crawling across all these websites, identifying all those websites that have the search criteria that you've just put in. But how many of you have gotten to the point where it says, I've found 10 million plus candidates and now it's just ranking them for you? That's part of the problem with using something like Google across the enterprise, across the internet. But that same concept is what we're really applying here because you could find that specific word or words that you're looking for anywhere on that website. Well, now let's bring that forward into OnBase with full text search. We can surely do something very similar to a Google-esque search. In this particular case, we're using a custom query where we're looking at this employee file text or file search using full text. We can just enable a text search field exactly like what we're talking about. But beyond that, we can now enable some advanced search items such as the name, employee ID, the date range that you might be looking for to further call that search down. This is just one example using the OnBase Unity client for how we could find that information. And when we actually go ahead and search based upon that information, and here's just a different scenario where now I'm using document retrieval, I'm specifically looking at that resume example again. There, I can see down towards the bottom that I'm doing a full text search based upon the word of marketing. And now I have 3 candidates here that are ranked based upon how often it's found the word marketing inside of that particular document. And a little bit of a summary on the right-hand side of those search results telling us where it found the first occurrence of that word of marketing. Now, when I actually open up any one of those documents, it's going to go ahead and hit highlight that document for me also. So this is natively how OnBase is going to work going forward with this full text search, where not only am I identifying the document, but it's going to show me exactly where inside the document it found those particular words that I was searching for. And it also gives me that full text navigation that I see, get over on my screen here, right here where I can navigate to the next page that has a hit, the last page that has a hit, or even go back to the original document without that full text search hit being shown, because this is an HTML5 rendition of that document. And this happens to be an image-based file format. just to show something different, here's a different result that could be there where we found that similar term of marketing, but this was a Word document. It was an offer letter, so that's native text inside that Word document. That has to be rendered a little bit differently, but the double carets that we see here gives us the ability to quickly move to the next instance of where I found that hit, but we always have the ability to go back and show that original document with the proper formatting. So this is all within the Unity client for what we're seeing here, but the same concept applies 100% inside the OnBase web client. Again, here's that full text search that we have enabled within a custom query here within the web client. Here's our hit list. Here's our highlighting that we see down on the bottom of the screen, finding all the words of marketing, so on and so forth. So again, very similar user experience. Also with the full text search now appearing down towards the bottom of native document retrieval on the left-hand side. So it's really very similar regardless of which client that you're using. There's my hit results from the full text search against a document type, showing me my hit highlighting also. This also works within the OnBase Thick client. I'm so happy to report that something has been maintained very nicely within the OnBase Windows client. That again, just to show you the same things, we have the full text search that appears now towards the bottom of our native document retrieval. And even to the point where when I perform that search, it gives me my hit list. It's a little bit different than my hit list. It doesn't show me where it's found the first instance of that word, but when I actually open up any one of those documents, it does give me that hit highlighted document, all things said and done. So very flexible across the clients. By the way, this would extend to Microsoft Outlook integration. If you have that licensed within your organization, very similar look and feel to the OnBase Unity client. So notice anywhere where we see that search text field, there's a question mark that appears within blue. And when you hover your mouse over that, that now gives us some help that actually appears here. So this is very user intuitive. It shouldn't require a lot of training for your end users where they can just hover over this and now they have the information to say, do I want to search based upon an exact phrase? So put that phrase within a double quote and we'll only find within full text search those items that match exactly. You can use Boolean criteria here also, and, ors, nots, putting in multiple different terms so that you can now say find this term and this term has to be within the documents to, again, further limit things down. And if it can't have a specific term, make sure that we don't or we use the not and that term that we want excluded from our results. You have Soundex searches. Now that's effectively allowing us to put in capital S and then put our search Soundex term within squiggly brackets there. And really what that's doing now is finding other words that sound similar to what we're searching. A good example would be if I'm looking for king. The Soundex search does require that the first letter of that search term be returned. So it's going to find king, it's going to find Kong, Kwong, K-U-O-N-G, but it would not find Ling, for example, starting with an L. So that would be your Soundex search. Your fuzzy search is going to be a little bit different here, where again, using that F and now the squiggly brackets in the term, that allows us to find other words that have within 2 characters of the search term. So say, for example, you're searching for department. That's going to find department, departments, departmental, T-A-L, because it's 2 additional characters on the end of that, but it would not return back something that's found like departmentalize because it's just beyond that 2 character limit. Near is saying that I want to search for 2 terms, 2 separate terms that are only separated by X number of characters from each other. So like near 3, using a first term and a second term. There can only be 3 words between those 2 terms to actually find what you're looking for. And there's also thesaurus search. This does come with the thesaurus. You can customize that thesaurus and add your own terms to that. But really now you're saying, hey, if I'm searching for like car, that would return back potentially automobile, vehicle, truck, you name it. You really get to control what that thesaurus is saying, and hopefully this is the last time I say thesaurus because I'm having a difficult time with it today. All right, so hopefully that gives you some further ideas about what the user interface looks like this. So just a few more things about this full text search. I'm using the term OnBase full text search. OnBase has had full text search capabilities in it for many, many, many years, but in most recent years, it had always been using the Autonomy IDOL engine. Now, the OnBase full text search was officially released with OnBase 18. It was actually released within OnBase 17. It was a soft release. So just to gauge where you are at with your OnBase versions, if you're on a specific release of OnBase 17 or more recent, this new OnBase full text search is available for you. It is the replacement for the full text indexing server for Autonomy IDOL, and that's always been a mouthful. I'll just shorten that to say Autonomy IDOL. And a number of you may very well have the full text indexing server for Autonomy IDOL. That is going to be going away, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. So why would you want to transition from the Autonomy IDOL search to this OnBase full text search? It's been completely rewritten from ground floor up, but very, very well proven. The search performance is much, much better. And I've heard from multiple people also saying that IDOL kind of clunky, sometimes wasn't working very well, especially as you started having a lot of documents put into the system. The search performance has been tested with 500 million documents. I'm sure it can go well beyond that. So the scaling of this should not be a concern for your organization whatsoever. The retrieval times are faster than what we've been seeing in IDOL. The performance of the OCR engine for anything that needs to be taken from image and now converted into text so that it can be searched is much faster, and then we're seeing about 20 to 30 pages per minute per core dedicated to the OCR process. So it can plug through your documents quite quickly. There's support for many more file formats than what had been out there with an IDOL. Just a couple to note, Microsoft OneNote, the email format, even the Open Office format is now supported within full text search. So we can throw a variety of different file types at this and get it to work properly going forward. It's been tested with 290 different languages, so really consider it to be language independent. If you're an international organization and you have a variety of different languages going into the system, perfectly fine. People can search upon that. That shouldn't be an issue going forward. And it does come with a built-in thesaurus. I lied, I did say that word one more time. It's using Princeton WordNet. So if you wanted to actually plug that thesaurus into the system, perfectly fine. You can always customize that for any specific terms that mean something to your organization above and beyond what the general public utilizes, or you don't have to use that. You can just build your own thesaurus from ground floor up. And what you're going to see as I go through the rest of this presentation, and the configuration has really been simplified in comparison to what was out there with IDOL. Autonomy IDOL is being end-of-lifed December 31st of 2020. And I know for some of you that might be a shock, but it's a little bit more than a year away from now. There is a whole migration plan for that. Really, when we say end-of-life, you can still run it within your system, but if you're upgrading to versions of OnBase that are released after that point in time, there will not be support for Autonomy IDOL. So start making some plans to migrate things on over. Really, there's a consistent user interface between the two. For those people that were using IDOL and seeing all the screenshots that I presented before, you're gonna notice it really doesn't look any different from the end user, so there's no need to train your existing users on this new product. Now to get into some technical aspects of what this new OnBase full text search looks like. The configuration is done 100% within OnBase config. Under the Utils menu, once it's licensed, you're going to see a full text search option there. And really what you're going to be doing is from there, taking the different document types that you already have configured and activating them for full text search. So you can still be granular, saying these particular document types, yes, I want to enable this full text search. And then as those are activated, we need to provide a path for where the catalog, effectively the database, where all of those individual words are going to be stored for that optimized search going forward. In my example here, this is from my demo system. We wouldn't put this on a C drive. This would be a network share, typically a hidden share, to point those catalogs to. You can see there's some different options here, but really that's the high level what we're doing. There's some different processing options and statuses also. This is the same tool that we would be using for saying, I want to go back in time, all of these documents that are already in OnBase and now catalog them. You can do that start and end date range. You can select the document types that you want to run through at this point in time, much simpler than what things had been to recatalog anything in the IDOL tool in the past. You can see there's a status tab here, which tells us how many documents have been processed, how many things are pending, how many documents might have failed for whatever reason. That gives us some opportunity to go back and fix them and requeue those items for OCR and cataloging. There's also a thesaurus configuration inside the system here. Again, I'm not going to get into all the details here. So a few more technical pieces to this. There is a service that will be installed, and this can be installed on multiple different server OSs called the Highland Full Text Server. And really that is now going to be doing a lot of the work here that's going to be doing the OCR behind the scenes. So when you have documents that are coming into the system that have text already associated with them. So think searchable PDFs, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, other things like that. Really, the full text server is just taking that file, reading the words and inserting them into the catalog. Very quick to do something like that. And that all happens 100% behind the scenes. The user doesn't even know that this is happening as new documents are being archived into the system. But if you have image documents such as TIFF documents or just only image PDFs, the full text server is going to perform that optical character recognition. That does take a little bit of time, and that's the 20 to 30 documents per minute per core that I mentioned before, and then those words are inserted into the catalog. So that's how things get into the catalog behind the scenes, but it's all based upon that configuration of the document type to the catalog within the full text search configuration. So when somebody actually performs a full text search from retrieval or custom query or wherever, really we're filtering down based upon the document type and the keywords that are provided first. That's different than IDOL. So now you're searching across a smaller subcategory of documents than before. Then the search catalogs of the documents, it runs through the catalogs to try to find the matches based upon your text criteria. So it's very quick to get to that information. The full text server itself is then going to go ahead and perform that hit highlighting for you and deliver that back to the client. And that's an HTML5 rendition of that particular document. So just a graphic to show you what the architecture might look like. Upper right-hand corner, you have your different clients. Again, we talked about the thick client, the Unity client, the web client. This all works perfectly fine with it. But as you're performing a full text search, it's going through the application server and effectively grabbing those documents from the full text catalogs. As we actually open up any of those documents, again, the full text server is what's actually performing that hit highlighting and working hand in hand with your OnBase database and disk groups. And this can scale. So we can have multiple full text servers, we can have multiple full text catalogs. So really your choice for how robust you want to be building out this system, and that's somewhat dependent upon how many documents that you're going to be putting into the system. So let's talk about licensing here as we're getting close to wrapping up. The licensing, if you do not currently own any flavor of full text search, it is now a $20,000 single server license. And really what I mean there is that you just purchase the $20,000 license, we enable it, you can throw as many documents into full text search as you wish. you can have as many of your OnBase clients searching across the full text catalogs at any point in time without really any limitation besides your native OnBase client licensing limitations that you might have. So to migrate from the Autonomy IDOL piece, for starters, you get a licensing credit for what you've purchased for Autonomy IDOL. So if this is you already have Autonomy IDOL, you're going to get a credit for everything that you purchased. The full text indexing server for Autonomy IDOL retail price cost you $10,000, plus there was an incremental cost for X number of concurrent or named full text indexing clients for Autonomy IDOL. You effectively get credit for all that. You're just going to have to pay the difference to that $20,000 full text server component. Hence, you're going to have to work with your sales executive to figure out what that pricing is and get that written up within the statement of work. So there is a migration tool here. I just want to talk about that for those, again, that currently have IDOL. Really, we do have to reprocess everything into the new catalogs. They are different formats, so it's not just simple saying slap in OnBase full text search and it works perfectly. We're going to have to configure it to run this migration tool. So when we fire up OnBase full text search configuration, it's going to recognize that you might have some existing IDOL catalogs and will prompt us through the process of migrating things on over. As I mentioned just a moment ago, everything needs to be re-indexed and reprocessed into the new catalog. You can choose which document types that you want to migrate. So if there's some stuff in IDOL that you realize, really this is junk, I don't want to bring it on over, we can exclude it. We don't really need to worry about it. You can even migrate the IDOL thesaurus over to the full text search server. So really for a period of time, you're going to have both the legacy IDOL product as well as the full text OnBase full text search licensed at the same time. Upon completion of that migration and the re-indexing, all that we really need to do is to uninstall those IDOL components and you're done with it. Really, again, the user is going to see no difference between the two different pieces. So just in recap, I mentioned this before, how do you get it? You really just need to contact your Naviant account executive and talk through the options. They'll help you with what that licensing credit might be. If you're an IDOL customer, if this is something that you're interested in and you don't have today, again, please talk with your account executive and they can share further information and even arrange for a demonstration if need be. With that, we're getting close to time. Are there any questions that people have? And if I can get my mouse back over to my other monitor, I just have to go to the separate direction here. Let me see if we have any questions here. So one question came through, how does full text search work with the public access viewer? So for those that aren't familiar, the public access viewer is something that's quite specifically used within the government area where any constituent potentially could search across some different components. It is a natural extension. It's really going to be no different than how IDOL is actually being utilized. You just have to enable the different components to that. Now, I'm not that familiar with all of the details of the public access viewer and some of the exposed components, whether full text search would be one. Assuming that's there, and we can search across those catalogs, it really shouldn't be any different, but I would recommend that you follow up with that question with your account executive and we can surely do a little bit more research. With that, I don't see any other questions at this point in time. I'll stick around for just a few moments afterwards if anybody does have any further questions, but please watch for an upcoming event in December on the 11th. There is going to be a customer success team webinar on OnBase Foundation. If you haven't heard yet, that's the latest version of OnBase. They're going to be going through a webinar at that point in time. So please mark your calendars for that and keep your eyes open for the invites coming from our marketing team. Otherwise, I will say thank you so much. I know as we start getting into this holiday season, wish you and your family well, and hopefully we all stay a little bit warm and don't get so much snow. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.